Momo is returning from Xenosaga as the new rare blade in Xenoblade 2 Switch 2 Edition. But who is she? Why did so many people freak out about her announcement? Well, in today's video, let's break down this 100 Series Realian, what that even is, who Momo is, why her inclusion in 2 is so significant, and let's get you guys up to speed. Hello everybody, it's your boy Jmulls, and Mystic Powers, grant me a miracle! Let's get down to basics. Who is Momo? Her name is actually an acronym, Multiple Observative Mimetic Organicus. She is one of the main party members across all 3 Xenosaga games, like all 3 of them. She also falls under the same character archetype as another Xenoblade 2 character, Poppy. Not only because both of their names reference flowers, Momo translating to peach and Poppy is just a flower, that in the Japanese name is Hana, which is just flower. Yeah, the little flower on a character design is kind of a giveaway. But that's not all. Just like Poppy, Momo isn't actually human. She is what is known as a 100 Series Realian. And again, kind of just like Poppy over the course of the games and the story, she basically embraces her humanity. But let's go over what even a 100 Series Realian is. A Realian itself is a type of creation in the Xenosaga verse, basically a biological cyborg robot human clone thing, grown and programmed, but the inner bits of flesh and blood, and not just Terminator. Though with how powerful Momo was in my Xenosaga playthrough, she might as well have been the Terminator. Momo, end it! That's my goat! I mean, I can't help it! That's my goat right there! Ooh. When you need a boss to die, you bring in your ringer. Yeah, your clutch hitter. Realians, because they aren't directly human, are often viewed and treated as tools and slaves. They are told what to do, programmed with a specific purpose and task, and meant to do just that. Some take it to the extreme and view them as nothing but tools, and will gladly sacrifice them or take advantage of them, kind of like Blades from Xenoblade 2. You know, now that I say that, her being a blade in Xenoblade 2 is starting to make a lot more sense. But they were a batch of Realians once made for a very specific purpose, something that set them apart from all the other Realians. They were designed to be able to utilize the Hilbert effect, an ability able to rip gnosis, beings from another plane of reality called the imaginary number domain, from their dimension where they could hurt us but we couldn't hurt them, into ours where we could level the playing field. Not only are the 100 Series Realians capable of that, but they're also observational Realians, basically walking computers and meant to make contact with and observe the gnosis. But Momo is no regular 100 Series Realian. No, she was the prototype. Her creator, her father, he was Joachim Mizrahi, one of the greatest minds mankind ever had. This guy was a genius on his own tier, and was put in charge of exceptionally important projects, like working with and on the Zohar, Xenosaga's conduit. But none of those projects were as important to him as his primary focus, something that drove nearly everything he did, his alpha and omega, finding a cure for his biological daughter, Sakura. Sakura was born of Joachim and Juli Mizrahi, but suffered from a disease with seemingly no cure.
I don't believe the condition your daughter suffers from is a mere natural disorder.
Hypersensitivity to the synchronicity of the UMN.
The Unus Mundus network, just as its name implies, is a collective subconscious that's existed since the moment the universe was born. It's a fundamental part of nature. Through my research of the Zohar, I discovered the existence of what appears to be human consciousness within the UMN. Consciousnesses are born from the UMN, and they return to the UMN.
We never had diseases like that when the universe was still small.
But Sakura, she was the daughter of one of the greatest minds in the history of mankind. Do you think he wouldn't try to find a way to save her? Sakura couldn't really interact with the world. That was her main condition. Really simplifying it. So Joachim had an idea. What if he could make a clone of her? A Realian that looked just like Sakura. And if he could find a way to let Sakura communicate through that clone, well then his daughter could have a way to interface with the world at large. Easier said than done though. Made infinitely harder when your daughter dies as you're still trying to find a cure. But again, one of the greatest minds ever. Someone where almost every important concept, technology, and structure can be traced back to. Death itself would not deter him from saving his daughter. So he had a plan. Pluck his daughter's soul from the collective unconscious. Again, easier said than done. But when you have a soul, what are you gonna do with it? You can't just put it on a shelf. She's not an elf after all. You need a vessel. Well, he was already already creating a Realian that would have originally been used as a way for Sakura to interact with the outside world. Why not take that Realian and convert it as a body for Sakura to inhabit instead? But as is often the case in Xenosaga, tragedy struck. The world of Miltia fell to a great Gnosis invasion, and amidst the cataclysm, Joachim Mizrahi would meet his end.
My sins will certainly never be forgiven. But if it means you will be born into a peaceful world, then so be it. I will gladly throw myself into the fires of hell. Hallelujah! And the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them, and they were judged, every man according to their works. And death and hell were cast. They were cast into the lake of fire. And with it came about the second death. And whosoever not found in the book of life was cast into the lake of eternal fire. Sakura, I doubt I will go where you are. You will probably admonish me for that which I have done. Who's there? Juli. I'm sorry. Please take care of Momo. Please take care of our child.
He sacrificed the world of Miltia by cutting it off from the rest of the universe to contain this rapidly expanding Gnosis phenomenon. He would be labeled a villain and madman by everybody, but this action slowed likely the Gnosis down enough so humanity weren't overwhelmed much earlier. In a way, Joachim Mizrahi saved the universe. And after Joachim fell off, that Realian would be fully born within the construct known as Proto-Macabre. That prototype would be given a name, Momo, a girl that weirdly enough had memories of a loving and sweet father that faced a world that hurled curses at him for causing the fall of Miltia. Again, at least according to them. However, the influence of Joachim Mizrahi would not end here. Joachim had one last plan, inputting the Y data within Momo. Remember how I said Joachim was researching a lot of different things? Well, one of those things were the words of God, and Joachim's analysis of those words were a big part of the Y data, but they weren't the only bit. He also put in the transport code needed to travel to Old Miltia, where not only that Gnosis phenomenon took place, but it also housed the original Zoha, Xenosaga's conduit. When word got out about the Y data, the race was on. People had to get their hands on Momo. Control of the Zoha was paramount to controlling the universe. You can't let that fall into the wrong hands. As you can probably imagine, this causes a lot of conflict in Xenosaga, as organizations and individuals seek to capture Momo in order to extract this data that will lead them to Old Miltia. And in Xenosaga Episode 1, Momo was introduced as a Realian captured by an organization known as UTIC, which was also, funnily enough, founded by Joachim Mizrahi, but it basically turned antagonistic and evil to us since then. And then an actual cyborg named Ziggurat 8 was deployed by Momo's mother, Juli Mizrahi, to take her back. And during the course of the mission, Momo gave Ziggurat 8 the name that would really stick with him. She would call him Ziggy. And Ziggy, funnily enough, would basically go on to become a father-like figure to Momo, after they successfully escaped Momo's containment on Pleroma, which involved me, by the way, beating a fight you're supposed to lose. Just saying, game and god! And then after that, she basically joined up with like Shion, kos-mos, and Crow and joined the main party, at least until they got to where they needed to go. Cut forward a bit, and then Momo would then meet Junior, another main party member throughout Xenosaga. And his backstory is basically, what if we really love turning children into super weapons to fight like godlike entities? And in this case, it would be Udo. Yeah, the same Udo we talked about a couple of days ago. And then over the course of Xenosaga, Junior and Momo would slowly grow a bond together, spearheaded by the fact that Junior knew Sakura. Part of his training as a URTV, Udo Retrovirus, don't worry about that right now, part of his training was interacting with Sakura, quite extensively so. And funnily enough, Junior's twin brother, Albedo, also a URTV, became twisted and warped, not only from exposure to Udo, well, mainly that.
I'm scared, Rubido! Don't let go of my hand! Concentrate, Albedo. Just do it like in training and you'll be fine. Oh, Rubido, don't let go! No! I'm cutting the link! Don't let go!
but he's also practically immortal, and he's petrified of leaving Junior and being all alone. It's all just too much for his mind to bear.
I don't want to be alone. Ah. If you die, I want to die too.
Albedo basically would snap and go on to become a primary antagonist for much of Xenosaga. Near the end of episode 1 of Xenosaga, Albedo would capture Momo. He leverages his immortality to basically carve himself up in front of Momo to mentally traumatize her. There's a scene that was censored in English where he basically just cut his arm off. The English made it look like he ripped it off. In the Japanese, bro took a knife to that thing, and Momo's just huddled in the corner having to watch all of it. Albedo's basically become a sadist and he just wants the Y data. Albedo also killed the Kirschvasses, the 99 Series Realians that Momo viewed to be her sisters, and with the room that she was being basically mentally tortured and scattered with their bodies. It all pretty much broke Momo. Albedo tried to extract the Y data, wasn't really successful, but he was able to peer at it, and Momo only came back around when she sensed that Junior was in trouble because he was in an aura battle off with Albedo. Albedo leaves for a bit, but then he summons Proto Macabre, so we have to do that as like the main final dungeon for Xenosaga 1, but we win in the end, so it's all good. And then make our way to second Miltia, because we had another one. When Juli Mizrahi and crew tried to extract the Y data, they sprung a trap. They initially thought it was a defensive mechanism from Joachim Mizrahi, but they would then come to learn that Albedo had placed it back in the Song of Nephilim when he had accessed Momo's mind trying to extract the Y data there. And as a bit of context, up to this point in time, Juli Mizrahi was trying to act cold to Momo because Momo reminds her of her daughter Sakura who had died. And the logical thing for her to have done at this point would be to wipe Momo's mind to erase the Y data so Albedo or anyone nefarious would not be able to get access to it. Essentially going scorched earth. She was about to do it, but she couldn't press the button. She couldn't wipe Momo's mind. So Momo did it herself, willingly sacrificing her own personality and mind in order to make sure that the precious Y data doesn't fall into the wrong hands.
Dr. Mizrahi, is she...
It's all right. I won't let her die.
We would then dive into Momo's mind in order to try to find a way to revive her personality. Unfortunately, this was the true trap set by Albedo, that because of reasons, allowed him to successfully extract the Y data, thus bringing old Miltia back into play. But good news, we are able to save Momo here. Woohoo! Over the course of Saga 2 and Saga 3, Momo would grow closer to Junior, Ziggy, and her mother, Juli Mizrahi, who starts off feeling cold and distant to Momo since Momo was based on her own daughter, Sakura, so even seeing her dredges up terrible memories. But as the game goes on, Juli opened up more and more to Momo, and started to view her as another daughter. Ziggy, due to the events of Pied Piper, had lost everything, and no longer really cared about living, and didn't even bother doing the necessary maintenance as a cyborg to prolong his lifespan. His end was nearing, but no matter how cold and distant he always tried to act, and no matter how much he tried to convince himself, he cared about Momo. Junior managed to deal with Albedo in a great big standoff at the end of 2 that would culminate with the death of Albedo. Now, it's important to note here, Albedo and Junior weren't just twins. They shared a heart, so when Albedo died, even if he had tortured Junior and Momo and was a great villain, he was still Junior's brother, and when he no longer felt that connection from their shared heart, it almost broke him, until the spirit of Sakura appeared to Junior, saying, "Get up, beta male." Sakura viewed Momo as her sister, and even though she loved Junior, Sakura told Junior to keep the promise he had made to Momo before setting out and return to her. So cut forward to episode 3, and we practically time travel back to the time of old Miltia. Okay, we didn't actually time travel, but basically, Momo ran into her father, Joachim Mizrahi. Now granted, Joachim didn't know who our Momo was, but they give off the feeling that he knew something was up. Also, Momo looks just like Sakura, and to Momo's delight,
The new consciousness, which is growing, is not hers.
Oh.
But I think that's all right. This child will surely become the hope of all Realians. That hope may become a way to stop the looming threat of the expansion of the universe. Our second daughter. I'm sure Sakura would have wanted that.
Her name was Sakura?
Yes, my wife and I came up with the name together. She was a cute child just like you. This world must continue to exist for you and others.
Joachim wasn't the terrifying madman that doomed the world that people had tried to make him out to be. He was a loving father, a nice man trying desperately to save his daughter. Momo gained a true relationship with her mother Juli Mizrahi before, and now her doubts and concerns for her father were washed away. He was by no means a perfect man, but he was still her daddy. The ending of episode 3 is both a great conclusion for her, but it's also bittersweet. And because Momo is coming back in Xenoblade 2, we kinda have to talk about it because it could become extremely important. What do I mean by this? After the events of episode 3, the universe was almost wiped out. The UMN, think of it like the Matrix of Xenosaga, was lost. So Momo's conclusion is that she would work alongside Ziggy and an organization known as Scientia to build a new one, but it would mean separating from Junior, who would join Shion in the search for lost Jerusalem, Earth. And as a reminder, all rest originally came from Earth. I really wonder how they're gonna play on that, if at all. But getting back to the ending of episode 3, to cut a long story short, Albedo had a pseudo-redemption arc in episode 3. Wouldn't call him a good guy. However, Momo didn't hate him, even after everything that had happened. She just couldn't hate him. But before they separated, she asked Junior that if Albedo ever wakes up, tell him hi for her. Junior promises to do so, and they go their separate ways. And now this is where it gets really interesting when it comes to Xenoblade 2, because they could kind of play this off like they did with Kos-mos and Telos, who are also rare blades in Xenoblade 2 that find their origins in Xenosaga, and it's just another model or something. So it's entirely possible that the Momo we're going to be interacting with in episode Holy Xenosaga brain rot, I mean Xenoblade 2, isn't actually our Momo from Xenosaga. It's entirely possible, but it is interesting because they put the UMN logo on Momo. How they're going to work Momo into the story for Blade 2, completely up in the air. Like I said, there's a million different things they could do here, but I really wouldn't be surprised if they make plenty of references to a story from Xenosaga. And as someone who has wanted to see a continuation of this character ever since I beat episode 3, seeing Momo return in Xenoblade 2, one of my other favorite games, I'm so fascinated, but I'm also just over the moon. Now, when it comes to her gameplay style has changed over each of the Saga games. She starts out originally in episode 1 as a magical girl trope. She whacks enemies with like a magic wand, can cast a whole bunch of different spells and stuff like that. You can also collect magical girl transformations for her. But in episode 2 and 3, the girl locks the hell in and she busts out a bow and arrow and just starts sniping people. When it comes to the rabbit she has on a whip, it's known in English as Bunny, but in Japanese, it's known as Uku. It's basically a big mascot character in Xenosaga. And one of the gags for Bunny is that when he turns around, there's a giant scary feast on the other side, so even her weapon transforming when she goes into imaginary mode in Xenoblade 2 is probably a reference to that. It's also, funnily enough, the mascot for the UMN. What importance that's gonna have in Xenoblade 2, we'll have to find out.
There's a powerful energy wave coming from Abel's art.
So here's where you come in. Leave a comment down below with your thoughts on Momo's return in Xenoblade 2. And also, who do you think is going to be the new hero for Xenoblade 3, especially now that we know they're going to pull the trigger again when it comes to bringing another Xenosaga character in the mix with Momo for Blade 2. I'd love to hear your thoughts, hear your opinions, and hear your perspectives. While you're down there, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. And if you want to see my reaction to the unveiling of Momo and the whole trailer for the Xenoblade 2 Switch 2 edition, you should check out this video right here for more. Thank you all for tuning in, stay safe, have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye everybody, until we meet again.
Good luck. See you soon.